Hi, I'm Nina. My dad smiled at my baby shower, then stood up and said, Bet she don't know who her baby's dad is. The room froze. No one defended me, not even my mother's side, but that wasn't the worst part. He'd been using my name for years to stay in this country, so I canceled his green card. But what came next? I never saw coming. I didn't expect my breath to catch the moment Dad stepped into that backyard garden. Sunlight spilled across neatly trimmed hedges, pastel balloons bobbing, tablecloths waving in a mild spring breeze. I'm Delara, 30-something, pregnant with my first child, and I had dreamed of this day for months. My friends in soft pastels, my mother arranging flowers, my baby shower was supposed to be the sort of warm memory I'd replay when time was hard. I dressed in a linen dress, comfortable yet proud, hair clipped back with the green jade clip Mom once gave me. It felt good to wear something that whispered strength rather than hiding. Laughter drifted across the lawn as my mother told a joke about toddler tantrums and tiny socks. Neighbors complimented the garden. Friends gushed about the invitations, the cake, the wicker bassinet that glowed under fairy lights strung in trees. I smiled. I felt proud. I told myself years of quiet effort were worth this moment. And yet, as soon as I saw Dad, my father, walking in unannounced in crisp slacks and a linen shirt, I felt something shift, like the air had sharpened. He wasn't on the guest list. I knew why. Yet seeing him, the face I both feared and hungered to please, set off tension I couldn't smooth away. Dad didn't greet me first. He clasped some old family friends, exchanging jokes, shaking hands. When our eyes met, he gave a small nod, cool, composed. My heart sank with the memory of months before, when he pressured me to renew his green card. After all I've done for this family, he'd said, voice steady, eyes claiming moral high ground. I'd felt trapped between pride and duty. I'd said yes, reluctantly, hoping it would reclaim something, fix something broken. But using me, my sponsorship, my future, as leverage had already cost me trust. The toast came. My best friend lifted her glass, called for attention. I watched Dad's eyes narrow in anticipation, as though he was about to perform. He spoke about family values, loyalty, tradition, pride in upbringing. And then he dropped it. Bet she doesn't know her baby's dad. Silence hit so fast I thought air stopped. A gasp. A friend's spoon clattered. My plate trembled in my lap. He raised his glass, indifferent. Some guests froze, some looked uncomfortable. I felt every eye on me. My secret, my choice, laid bare by his lips. Flames of shame curled in my chest, sharp and unexpected. I wanted to say anything. I wanted to smash something, but I bit my tongue. My limbs went heavy. I slipped away to the shade of the house. I closed the door behind me, heart pounding so loud I almost heard it in my ears. They followed. A cousin, my mother asking if I was okay. Jasper tried a half-hearted joke. Ignore him, Delara. But it wasn't enough. I realized nobody would truly defend me. Not here, not in front of Dad. Because this wasn't just about a remark, it was about reputation, about a family afraid to admit fault. I slid my phone out, logged into the immigration portal. Hands trembling, I clicked Cancel Sponsorship. I looked up at the window, at the pastel laughter beyond glass. I wasn't that daughter anymore, not the obedient one, not the one who waits. I took a deep breath, smoothed my dress, returned to the party with a calm I didn't feel. Conversations still fluttering, but tension under every laugh. Dad raised his glass again. I caught his eye. I held it. No words. Just that silent declaration. I refuse to be invisible. I saw a few friends glance at me differently. I felt something shift in the air. And I knew whatever came next, I had drawn a line. When I walked into my apartment, the weight of the evening slammed into my chest harder than any insult could have. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just leaned back against the door, let my purse drop to the floor, and stared at the stillness. No laughter. No clinking glasses. No more lies. The baby gifts sat untouched on the side table, sweet pastel bags with ribbons, booties, and onesies. They looked like they belonged to someone else's life, someone excited, someone loved. I stood there, numb, feeling the hum of everything I hadn't said at that backyard table. Carter's words still rang in my ears, but what haunted me more was the silence that followed. The silence from my brothers, my cousins, people who had watched me grow up. Not one of them flinched, not one dared interrupt him. I wondered if they stayed quiet out of loyalty or fear. Maybe they couldn't tell the difference anymore. Maybe neither could I. I thought about the sponsorship cancellation I'd submitted just hours ago. I didn't regret it, but it didn't feel victorious. It just felt empty, like I'd slammed a door on a burning room, too late to save what was inside. I needed air, clarity, something real. I knelt beside my bed, reaching under the frame for the old shoebox I hadn't touched in years. Inside were scattered keepsakes, a bracelet from high school, letters from a camp crush, the ultrasound photo I'd meant to frame. Underneath it all, I found something I hadn't expected. My mother's old journal. It smelled faintly of lavender and dust. The spine was cracked, the ink fading. I barely remembered her. She died before I hit 16, but her handwriting was still strong. Flipping through the pages, one entry made me sit down on the carpet. If Nina ever grows up questioning me, tell her I tried. I stayed longer than I should have. Carter knew how to twist guilt into a chain. When the boys came, he started using them too. Loyalty became a leash. I sat with that sentence like it was a wound reopened. It wasn't just me. This wasn't new. I wasn't the first to shrink in his presence, the first to stay silent to keep peace. I realized I wasn't breaking the family legacy. I was trapped inside it. My mother tried to escape it. I had to finish the job. My phone buzzed. It was Jasper. You coming to dinner tonight? Just family? No drama. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part, the part that was tired of wondering, wanted to see, to know where they all stood. That night, I pulled into the restaurant parking lot just as the sun dipped below the skyline. Inside, our table was already filled. Jasper waved me over like nothing had happened. Carter sat at the head of the table, sipping a drink, laughing with his usual fake warmth. I took the seat furthest from him. My plate stayed untouched. Jasper leaned in, whispering, "Let's not drag this out, all right? Just enjoy the meal, for the baby." Of course, always for the baby, never for me. Dinner went on in strained civility. My sister-in-law commented on nursery colors. Someone passed the bread basket. Carter made a joke about how times change. No one laughed. Still, no one challenged him. I looked around, searching faces I'd known since childhood. Blank, neutral, trained. Then, right as the waiter brought dessert, Carter leaned in with that familiar smug tilt of the head. You know, Nina, some women just aren't built for motherhood. Maybe it skips generations. A fork clinked against a plate. The server froze mid-pour. I didn't blink. Then it's a good thing my child will grow up knowing better. He raised an eyebrow. If he even sticks around long enough to know who the father is. I stood, not in anger, not in fear, but in full, sharp, deliberate resolve. This family's silence is its own curse, I said, and I walked out. Back in the car, I rolled down the windows, let the cool air cut through the sting of what had just happened. I didn't want to cry. I wanted to write, not to Carter, not to my family, but to my child. I pulled into my driveway, sat there under the porch light, and opened the notes app on my phone. I promise never to weaponize silence, I typed. I promise never to confuse control with love, or duty with devotion. And I promise, above all, that you will never question your worth based on someone else's brokenness. A quote drifted into my mind. Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I whispered it into the dark, then louder. I believe him now. They weren't monsters, just mirrors of the damage passed down, generation to generation. But that legacy? It ends with me. Mr. Halverson's voice on my voicemail felt like a summons from the past. He said, "Dilara, your mother left instructions, sealed letter, deliver when you became pregnant." My stomach dropped. 1 week into this storm, and here was another wave. I had barely slept. I barely trusted that her love was real. But this was different. I drove downtown Phoenix this Sunday, parking in the lawyer's lot beneath gray clouds that threatened rain. I carried the green jade clip in my purse, Mother's journal still fresh in memory. Inside his office, Mr. Halverson slid the envelope across the desk without a word. The paper was yellowed, edges brittle. I smelled old ink, faint perfume my mother always wore. I thought, she kept this hidden for years. What else did she carry alone? I broke the seal. The letter was short, more honest than anything I had heard. She wrote that she saw patterns: Carter's control, the guilt, the way he used pride as a leash on all of us. She confessed she had stayed when she should have left, not for loyalty, but survival. One line struck deep. I stayed for survival. I pray you choose something better. That better gave me something I didn't know I was missing. My mother believed I deserved peace. On the drive home afterward, memories unspooled. I was 14, my mother in the kitchen, holding back tears as Carter shouted upstairs. I had thought her tears were weakness, but now, hearing her words, I saw strength. Strength in the way she stayed alive despite him. She whispered once, when I tiptoed into her room, "Some days, surviving is enough." At the time, I nodded, but I didn't understand. Now, I felt her warning, her code, warning lines drawn between what is love, what is obligation, what is shame disguised as care. My childhood home, the little bungalow on 4th Street, I passed it, windows dark. It was rented now. I parked across the street. I watched a family inside, laughter bouncing off walls. A child ran chasing a ball. I stayed in my car, heart hollow at how free they looked, no fear of who noticed them, no worry of hiding who they were. I clutched my belly. My child didn't deserve silence. I whispered to the unborn life, "You will know your mother tells truth," even when silence was passed down as heritage. That evening, I called Jasper and arranged to meet on a park bench under oaks. He showed up late. He looked tired. I asked him quietly, "Why didn't you speak up at dinner?" He looked away. "I was taught his word was final," he said. I thought that was loyalty. A silence stretched between us. I felt the weight of his apology, not in words, but in regrets he hadn't admitted. "Not knowing isn't innocent when it's a choice," I said. I realized then I no longer waited for them to see me. I saw myself. I carried my mother's words, my child's future, and I would no longer accept being quiet. The house is quiet when I walk in that evening. The sun has set, California sky turning bruised purple beyond Phoenix horizon. I drop my keys on the entryway table. My heart still echoes with Carter's voice from dinner. Some women just aren't built for motherhood. Maybe it skips generations. I feel my chest hollow out. I flip on the TV, but the sound feels distant. I don't watch. I just sit on the couch, curl into myself. My phone pings. Messages from family. "Why did you say all that?" "He didn't mean what he said." I don't reply. I can't. I remember every small cut. The jokes, the expectations, the implied shame. I remember the lines I never crossed, the silence I held on to. I think, no, this isn't isolated. It never was. Morning comes slow. Coffee warms my hands, but not my skin. I scroll through social media before my eyes are fully awake. There it is. Carter's post. Proud that I made it here with help of the daughter no one sees. My stomach sinks. Comments bloom. He sounds hurt. Not sure what she did. People I know. People I don't. Mocking, sympathetic, confusing. I close the laptop. I text my friend. "I hate how he makes me invisible, then claims I saved him." She texts back, "You're not invisible. I see you." I put on the green jade clip. It feels heavy. I stare at the mirror. This betrayal isn't just words. It's public, strategic. I try to steady myself. I breathe. Repeat. I deserve more than a twisted apology. I pace the hallway. I consider calling Carter, confronting him in front of others. Then I remember something Mom's journal said. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's choosing not to engage until you're ready. I sit in silence and let the anger sharpen into clarity. I replay the insults, the edited narratives online. I collect them in my mind. I want to fight, not with volume, but with proof. By evening, I have a plan. Not perfect, maybe risky, but honest. I draft a letter to Carter. Not for excuses, not for reconciliation. A statement, something he can see, something the world can see. I type, erase, type again. I decide on words that don't plead, words that name truth. I will post it. It won't be angry, but it won't be silent either. I pin the green jade clip in my hair. I let its pointed green glow be a banner of what I will no longer accept. My hand hovers over share. My pulse echoes in my ears. Phone rings. Unknown number. My breath catches in my throat. I glance at the screen. I know someone unexpected is on the other end. I don't know why, but I know it matters. I press the button. I woke that morning feeling lighter, as though yesterday's tension might finally settle. Light filtered through the curtains, soft and hopeful. The green jade clip still nestled in my hair from the night before, its presence a reminder and, strangely, a comfort. I sipped coffee and read messages. A few kind words, a few stinging reminders. My friend's text caught me. "You stood up for yourself last night." I held those words. I dressed in something simple, clean, strong, but not showy. I told myself maybe someone would say they were wrong. Maybe someone would admit what Dad said was cruel. Then I saw Marisol's post. A family photo tagged them all, including me, but my name spelled wrong. "Fam first," the caption said. A closeness implied, but the error twisted it into a snare, hearts and likes, but beneath them mockery glinted in comments. My throat burned. I stared at the screen. I thought, she couldn't even trust me to be spelled right. I sent her a message. "Why spell my name wrong if you want me in your picture?" She replied, "It was a typo." The air had a taste of something bitter, not just omission, diminishment, a permission to pretend I didn't matter. Later, around noon, I found an envelope in the mailbox, a family retreat invite for the weekend. Jasper, Marisol, even Mom were RSVP'd. I was not mentioned. I crumpled the paper in my hand. When Mom called, she said it was just logistics, small group. I heard the excuse but felt the exclusion strike deeper. Flashbacks of photos where I was off to the side, cut from frames. They came unbidden. This wasn't oversight anymore. It was deliberate. Rage welled, but I remained silent. I didn't lash out. Not yet. Afternoon sun cast long shadows through my kitchen window. I opened my journal and let the truth spill. I once believed that love meant inclusion, that family meant safety. But today, I saw betrayals sown so smoothly from someone who said they cared the most. I reread journal passages, quotes I leaned on. "Your silence will not protect you." Words I once thought poetic now felt prophetic. Did Mom ever imagine this? Did I ever imagine this? Betrayal wasn't just Dad's realm, it was all of us. I let doubt root in me, and with it, a seed of resolve. By evening, I knew what I had to do. I called my friend and said, "I'm posting something, not to shame, just truth." I sat at the table, invited light through windows, pen trembling over screen, pictures loaded. I placed the green jade clip in my hair, its green edge visible in the lamp glow. I wrote words that didn't beg. I wrote what I deserved. Then I pressed post. Comments flickered, some kind, some sharp, some questioning. I read them, felt the sting, but I felt something else, strength. Then came a knock. I paused, heart jolting. I moved to the peephole. The gardener stood there, holding a manila envelope addressed to me. From Mr. Halverson. Even as dusk settled outside, I stood at my front window, the green jade clip gleaming faintly in the last light. 3 days had passed since I posted my truth, since the walls around me began to crack. I wasn't invited to the family retreat. The message in my mailbox earlier had spelled exclusion with cruel politeness. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from knowing the moment to act had come. I touched the clip, some quiet promise stirring inside. I rose, walked to the door, unlocked it. 2 envelopes lay on the welcome mat. 1 bills, one from Mr. Halverson's office. My pulse thudded in my throat. I knew this was the moment I had been waiting for. No more whispers, no more waiting. I torn open the thick envelope from USCIS. It contained a notice I should have seen weeks ago. Missing paperwork jeopardizing Carter's sponsorship, the legal foundation I'd helped build. The dependency issue. It was marked with dates, red stamps. And then, a note. It was never delivered because Mother had kept it hidden. Maybe to protect me. Maybe to avoid another scene. Rage and betrayal collided. My hands trembled as I held the paper, read the words again. If no response by date X, petition may be rescinded. I thought, she preserved this for me. I thought, I could use this. Carter had asked for my help before. Now I had something to leverage. I didn't want power over him. I wanted what was right, but this letter would be my truth exposed. I folded it carefully, shoved it in my bag. My resolve tightened like steel. That evening, I stood in the small church hall, community support meeting, dusty wooden chairs, folding tables, people speaking on immigrant rights, on family obligations, on betrayal and reconciliation. Carter arrived, a gift-wrapped box in his hand, smiling at cameras, at neighbors, acting like apology wrapped in ribbon could erase what he said, what he did. Marisol glared at me from across the room. The box said, "For the daughter who's always honest." My stomach twisted. I approached it, hands steady despite the hum of voices. I untied ribbon, opened the box. Inside, a polished version of the green jade clip, pristine, boxed, like a trophy. I stared. Some people nodded, others whispered behind hands. I lifted the clip, held it against my chest. Then I spoke calmly. "Thank you. But respect isn't about gifts." I laid the gift on the desk, under all those eyes. I walked away. The clip felt heavier in my pocket than on my hair. Back home, I flipped through pages in my journal. I drew timelines, every insult, every social post, every exclusion. Screenshots saved. Marisol's edit, Carter's public post, the notice, the hidden letter. I called Mr. Halverson, his voice serious. He confirmed the USCIS letter still carried legal weight. I documented dates. I practiced what I'd say in public, calm, factual. I rehearsed it in front of the mirror. I considered sharing letter, proof, my side of things, not to shame, but to protect myself and others silenced. I realized strategy can be silent before it strikes, and I accepted that part of fighting means showing up even when fear knots in your gut. At dusk, I received a message. Community meeting tonight. Someone who faced this too wants to meet. My heart thudded. Did I expose myself too early? Was this someone I could trust? I stepped into the hall, dim lights overhead, murmurs at tables. Then I saw them. A woman I once met at a church event, face lined with sorrow, eyes warm. I caught her glance. She stood as I approached. I reached into my bag, finger over phone. The letter. The screenshots. My heart hammered. Was this the moment to shatter the story Carter had told for years? Or would this witness become just another rumor in his defense? I didn't know, but I felt something inside shift. I was no longer waiting for the world to see. I was going to make them see. I returned to Mom's old study that night, flashlight in hand. The key turned awkwardly in the lock, dust motes floating in golden lamplight. I opened the drawer I'd avoided, sliding fingers past old bills, a tarnished watch, and there, the photo album labeled Family Days. The heart in my chest felt heavy, and yet I needed this moment. I flipped through pages, Mom's laugh, Dad in the background, always Dad. But her eyes, distant, clouded, always worn thin. One picture made me stop. Mom with a younger sister I never knew existed, wrapped around each other. Caption scratched out. On the side, Mom's handwriting. We smile to hide cracks. I paused. It was proof I wasn't imagining what I felt as a child. It was real. I turned the photo over. A note in Mom's hand. For when Nina is brave enough to see. I traced the words with my finger. She's standing alone in a courthouse, something serious, something she never finished. My chest squeezed. Why didn't you fight? I whispered. Then a memory. Mom telling me that sometimes a good fight begins with being seen. I saw her, not as weakness, but as unacknowledged courage. She had tried. I had inherited more than silence. I had the fragments of her attempt. It changed something in me. Hiding felt like betrayal of her wishes. Back home, I held my belly, felt the baby kick, new life pulsing inside me. I remembered the pressure to control, to silence, to obey. But this child, my child, would know love without apology. I whispered, "You will be loved, and you will not inherit shame." I typed a message to Carter. "If you can't honor me, don't expect my silence." It wasn't loud. It was precise. It was mine. Choosing motherhood over shame meant claiming my voice. Even if it trembled, it stood steady. Even if it was small, it meant everything. That night, I climbed to the rooftop of my apartment building. The city lights stretched out, Phoenix, alive and humming beneath me. Jasper showed up, unexpected. His face was thin, eyes rimmed with regret. I held the photo album against my chest. I asked him gently, "Did you ever believe me? Or did you choose silence to make things easier?" He shifted, looked away. Then he opened his voice. Fear of community, trouble with dad, gossip. I listened. I didn't excuse. I showed him the album. I showed him the note on the photo. His throat tightened. "I'm sorry I never saw you as you are," he said. I nodded. It wasn't all I needed. But maybe someone finally saw. Wind lifting my hair, I pulled on the green jade clip and steadied myself. I thought of releasing the photo confession publicly, not for vengeance, but so that truth couldn't be erased. Just then, my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. A message from a local reporter asking for comment on Dad's public image. My eyes flicked to the city spread beneath me. I closed my hand around the clip, feeling its edge. I took a deep breath. The night crackled around me, charged. I started typing. 2 days after that rooftop moment, I stood in the wings of the community center auditorium. It was warm inside, buzzing with low conversations and folding chair creaks. A panel discussion on immigrant rights was underway, and somehow, someone had listed me as a speaker. I hadn't planned to speak, but I came anyway, clutching my handbag tight, the sealed USCIS letter tucked inside. The green jade clip was still on my dresser. I had left it there on purpose, a reminder, not a prop. The moderator welcomed the crowd. "Tonight we honor those who make sacrifices for family, for country, for community." I scanned the room. There they were, Carter, Marisol, and Sarah, seated near the front. Carter leaned slightly back, the way he always did when he thought he had the room. My name was never officially called. I walked to the mic anyway. The room fell into hush. Microphone crackled. I steadied myself. I wasn't supposed to speak tonight. But maybe silence is part of the reason I'm here. I held up the envelope. This is a notice from USCIS. It was hidden from me for months. It jeopardized my father's legal status and my own standing, and it was done without my knowledge. People stirred in their seats. Carter's mouth twitched. I opened the letter and read, "Your conditional status may be rescinded due to lack of required evidence. Failure to respond may result in revocation." I looked straight at him. "Carter, you asked me to be the sponsor, to sign papers, to put my name on the line. And then you turned around and withheld the very thing that could have saved us from this mess." Someone near the back gasped. "He told me it was all handled," I said. "But it wasn't. It was leverage. It was a trap." Carter's lips parted, trying to form something, but no sound came. I saw Sarah drop her gaze. Marisol folded her arms, stone-faced. Immigration isn't just bureaucracy. It's about trust. About who we protect and who we choose to use. I paused, then reached into my bag again. This was the gift he sent me. I held up the box. The polished green jade clip glinted under the lights. He gave it to me in front of everyone last week, smiling, pretending, as if a trinket could smooth over the years. Marisol shifted. Carter tried to stand, then thought better of it. "People say gifts show you care, But this wasn't a gift. It was a performance. I opened the box, held the clip in my palm. When you give someone a symbol before giving them respect, you insult both. I stepped back from the mic, setting the clip down on the podium. There was no applause, just stillness. Then someone snapped a picture, and then someone else hit record. Carter finally found his voice. I just wanted to make amends. A woman stood up. You don't hide immigration letters if you're making amends. More voices rose. That's fraud. She could have lost everything. I raised my hand, calmly. I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm here to tell the truth. I showed the email trail. Dates, stamps, timeline. I quoted a legal statement Mr. Halverson helped draft. Petitioners are legally bound to disclose all official communications to the sponsored party. Carter's face was pale now. I turned to leave. The clip still sat on the podium. Outside the center, I walked toward my car but didn't go home. Instead, I drove until the freeway met the edge of the city, then turned back and parked near my building. I climbed up to the rooftop again. The city was quieter now. Just distant hums, orange lights, and space to breathe. I sent a short message to my closest circle. They saw. They heard. The wind was light. My belly moved again. My child, still safe, still mine. I pinned the green jade clip in my hair, this time not because of Carter, but because it reminded me of my mother. Of strength wrapped in softness. My phone buzzed again, a message from a local anchor. We're covering the center meeting. Want to speak tomorrow, on record? I looked out at the city and didn't hesitate. Yes, I typed back. I'll speak. The kitchen was quiet, except for the low hum of the fridge. Late afternoon light spilled across the table. Beside a half-filled baby bottle sat the crumpled USCIS letter. I hadn't touched it since the rooftop. Online headlines had already settled into their rhythm. Daughter stands against patriarch. Truth versus family. Bravery in blood. I didn't read past the headlines. Didn't need to. My phone buzzed occasionally. Neighbors, strangers, support. Some shocked silence from people I once thought I needed, but not from him. My father hadn't sent a word. I rubbed my belly gently. The last scan was good. Strong heartbeat. This child, this little life, was my only certainty. I started sorting through drawers. The process was slow but steady. Photographs, dried-out pens, cards from birthdays I never celebrated. I wasn't just clearing space in the apartment, I was clearing space in myself. Then came the knock. A courier held out a thick envelope. No sender name, just a return address that looked official. My heart tightened. I opened it with steady hands. Inside, a legal packet from an immigration attorney. One I didn't hire. A friend must have referred the case quietly. At the top, in clear type, ruling, permanent resident status maintained. And beneath that, the reasoning, approved on humanitarian grounds and based on petitioner's cooperative history. My breath caught. I read the paragraph again. My file, the one Carter used without consent, had just saved his status. The documents I signed under pressure, the effort I didn't realize I was still contributing to, they gave weight to his case. I sat back in the chair. The contradictions stung. I had fought to expose his manipulation. I had wanted consequences. And yet, it was my truth-telling, my paper trail, that gave him shelter. Poetic, in the worst way. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I just sat there, absorbing the cruel symmetry of it all. That night, I wrote a letter to my father. Not for him, for me. I won't forget what you did, but I won't carry it either. Then I lit a match and burned it in the fireplace. Some healing happens when no one is watching. Not in courtrooms, not on rooftops, just you, your truth, and the silence that follows. Marisol texted a few hours later. He's leaving town. I didn't ask where. I just replied, safe travels. The green jade clip stayed. I didn't throw it out. I placed it in a drawer next to the ultrasound photo, not as a memento, but a reminder of how people try to rewrite stories and how we get to reclaim them. A week later, I walked through the park near my apartment. It was early evening. Mothers passed by with strollers. Dogs pulled at leashes. The smell of grilled food lingered in the air. A small boy pointed at me. Is that lady going to have a baby too? His mother smiled, then looked at me for permission. I smiled back. Yes, and he'll know who raised him. Later, I sat under a gazebo with a local women's group. We were sketching out ideas for new community outreach, resources for immigrant women, new moms, women in hard places. I shared my idea. Anonymous story nights, just voices in a circle. No names, no judgment, just stories, told honestly. They nodded. They got it. Sometimes healing isn't found in telling your own story, but in listening to someone else's. By the time I walked home, the sky was fading to indigo. Cool breeze, soft footsteps. The clip was tucked inside a small memory journal I had started for the baby. Before I went inside, I turned on my phone's front camera and spoke softly into it. What we inherit, we can challenge. What we lose, we don't have to carry forever. I ended the recording. Not because the story was over, but because I finally felt it belonged to me now. Then the screen lit up. A message from an unknown number. He wants to meet. One last time. Says it's urgent.